Okay, welcome everyone. So we're back for the third time with Dr. Manek. She's been a very popular speaker, and we went through the conscious intention of space, and then the magic of space. And then she's continuing today with the magic of space, but adding in Buddha's relics. And so I've heard her talk about and read about this, so it's really interesting. So good morning. I'm not going to go through her whole resume because you go back and see part 1, part 2, and then part 3, because they just build on each other. So good morning, Dr. Manek.
Hey, Carol, nice to see you. And it's a bright and sunny morning here in California.
Yes.
And it's just absolutely exciting. This is where things get really, really great and juicy.
Okay.
It's part 3. Because, you know, in science, we've always put the truth on the shoulders of science. It has always been that we look for answers.
Right.
Any human dilemma in science. We look at numbers and statistics and we try to decipher. I call it bottom-up science.
Mm-hmm.
It's iterative, and we build on our knowledge. And Tiller's work is, in a sense, the opposite. It's top-down science. But this is where, and if I get excited and I move my hands,
that's what
I can't help myself.
We want a Zoom meeting that's alive.
I can't help myself. So do forgive me. People say, you got too much energy. My patients often complain. As I enter the door, they go, oh, there she is. Anyway, so we're going to talk about the relics of Shakyamuni Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha is Gautam Buddha, the historical Buddha, the Buddha that we know that set off this amazing spiritual pathway. And the Buddha's relics really give us an opportunity that is so rare to answer our question around consciousness. Mm-hmm. So here is Dr. Tiller.
Right.
The physicist from Stanford, a material science and engineering expert. He and I teamed up together for many, many years. And I used to meet with him every Thursday. I left the Mayo Clinic really because I knew in my bones that the Tiller's work opens the doorway to a much bigger toolkit in medicine.
Okay.
We're going to get there. We will. And Tiller lays the mathematical foundations, the numbers, okay, to why this works, this intention and consciousness in medicine. So we're building on chemistry, all right? And really, Tiller's work gives the foundation, the bridge to the ancient teaching that the kingdom of God is within you. You are in the image of the Lord. Okay, I use Shiva. Shiva is my deity. I love Shiva and his teaching. Shivaism is the original, you might say, yogic teaching. He is it in Hinduism. And from Shiva comes Krishna, Lord Rama, and many others.
Right.
So my whole endeavor to study medicine was, I thought medicine is the way to understanding human capacity, the body. I quickly realized, and I was at the best ivory tower of conventional care, and we did good work, no question about it. But I was missing this piece of spirituality. It was a big gap, and Tiller's work really bridges it, all right? And my book, Bridging Science and Spirit, and I really hope that your followers, Carol, will get this, because we're giving you bits and pieces today to give you the overall direction. But if you study this book, it will give you the real foundations. After all, Carol, we're talking about the invisible architect, and I want the foundations of understanding. And the knowledge should not be dead knowledge. The knowledge should be alive. of possibility. Okay, we're
Several
not
people
Homo
have told
sapiens.
me they've ordered it. So,
Oh, good.
yeah.
So the question is, how do we bridge between consciousness and its tool, which is intention, and its effect, okay? Which is really measuring absolute effects of intention in a lab, okay? And this is where Tiller really excels, because he did something quite courageous and genius. And that is, he tested his own intention. He realized you can't do this using brain imaging and MRIs. We're going to bypass all the material stuff because consciousness is invisible. And so he made a decision to test his own intention. And this cartoon from my book, Bridging Science and Spirit, he used his expertise in material science to ask himself, can my intention change water? Okay, so he uses this pen and paper to make this invisible thought into something physical. Then he added something very magnificent. Thy will be done is the Lord's Prayer. Thy will be done, O Lord. Not somebody else's will, but thy will be done. Not my will, but show me the truth. And this is a very powerful thing that hit me when I wrote the book. The editor pointed it out to me that, Nisha, this is the Lord's Prayer. And until that, Tiller never shows off. You know, he sort of writes, and we used to look at these intention statements. And when I wrote the book, the full import of what Tiller had actually done hit me hard. And it stays with me forever. This is a
sort
big
of
gift.
like by saying that you're grounded in time and space.
He grounded it in, yes, it is a link.
Exactly.
That divine power and this lab physical material, we're bridging it. Thy will be done. And ask the truth in any intention that you write. I want to win the lottery. Show me the miracle in that, oh Father. Okay, I mean it, because we start like that, right? We start with abundance. We start with things that we want. Me, Nisha Manek, wants this. And I came with that attitude. And since then, Carol, I'm glad to say it has changed and evolved. So you learn and you grow. That's okay. Yeah. So Tiller realized that his very unique scientific protocol, you cannot just intend for a glass of water to change the pH of this. He needed to really imprint his intention as a repository in a device. People get hung up on the device. I discuss this at great length in the book. I want you to know that your intention can impact this little plastic device.
So now people have asked me, just because we've had two other things. So they've gone online to the Tiller store, and there is one of these.
Yes.
And so UED.
Unimprinted electronic
exactly.
device. UED, right, yes.
So they wanted to know, is it like really necessary to have that? So at some point, like to kind of address that, because they were considering buying it after listening to you and stuff. Okay.
Well, let's address it now. So the device was designed in the 1990s, and you'll see it's very simple circuitry, and I have unassembled, and it's a simple Radio Shack type of thing, literally. And the idea was that other laboratories, other physics laboratories around the world could replicate this. So could you use this? Absolutely. Could you use another object? Absolutely.
Okay, there's the answer.
Makes the point you could imprint the shirt on your back. You can imprint crystals.
Right.
Quartz crystals are very powerful, by the way. They hold the information very effectively. But the crystals can also hold negative information, and Tiller became sick by experimenting.
So like the crystals, I know, because I have so many quartz crystals and stuff, that you have to, they have to be cleansed periodically.
Yes, and use kosher salt, and you cleanse the crystals. Absolutely. I don't use crystals, okay? I'm not an expert, but I do use the Tiller devices. I have several. And as we go through the program, I'll show you how I use them.
And then
And
one
I
other
use them-
thing, just like, so for different, like to condition your space, you could have one, and then you'd have another one. So each one would have their own objective.
Yes, you can. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And Tiller, so although this sounded, when I first came across Tiller's work,
Mhm.
I thought, why use a device? I couldn't see the potential of it because I thought it was frivolous or unnecessary. But how do you know to change some material very robustly? You're talking a whole full pH range up or down.
Right.
Does it take a day or a week or a month? I mean, and Tiller says I can't hold an intention and hold it for weeks and months.
Right.
So our solution to that was using a device which amazingly held the information in a stable way for up to 6 months.
Mhm.
Okay?
Okay.
And in fact, you don't have a control because the subtle energies, you can't block them. Okay?
Right.
But, and again, I covered this to some extent in the book.
Okay.
That our subtle energies, our information, our consciousness, which is subtle energy source, is extremely powerful. It's not electromagnetic. It's not like a telephone wire, okay? So I'm giving you lots of clues here. And these are good questions that your followers, they're clued in. They're clearly saying,
Oh,
do
yeah,
I
they're-
get a device? Yeah. And you can have an imprinting statement for each. You can imprint one to heal your grandchild and put it in your nursery, okay, or in your bedroom. Yes, you can. And
so
I
you're
urge-
saying that after 6 months, so after 6 months, you would need to
re-imprint them. Yes.
And so
Yes.
you could have it 6 months at one concept, and then you can re-imprint it at a different. Yeah.
So you can reuse the same device.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what I'm saying.
But I would say this, that if you're imprinting this, you have to have a very chiseled consciousness. You have to have no doubt, single focus. And that's why I say, don't be a light bulb, be a laser. Okay. So Tiller is and I have been in imprinting sessions with him. And I remember it was for a patient. We were going to heal a patient who contacted me, and we decided to do this experiment to help him because really with conventional care, he wasn't doing well. Right. He really wasn't. And after $1 million workups and X-rays and MRIs and medicines and biologics, when he contacted me and said, I know you do energy and some information thing. Can you help me? I'm at my wit's end. Right. And I approached Tiller and Tiller says, you need to be very clear with him that this is not FDA approved. Right. And that, there's no guarantee. And he's a lawyer, by the way, in the Twin Cities in Minnesota. And we did do it. And we created a very specific intention for him. It was individualized, personalized information medicine. All right. So I will come, if we have time in the end, because we have a lot to cover today.
Exactly. But this is an important one I just wanted to bring up. Okay.
Yeah, I think it is important because it really opened up the doorway that not only do devices get changed by human intention, but that device in turn can be a source of much healing. And we'll come back to that because Buddha's relics are a very specific type of device.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay. So we're saying that our brain in this light bulb, you'll see a little brain there, but it's all this circuitry. But it's dim, it's okay, it shines a light. But what we want is to be like this. A very sharp, focused, coherent source of information. Coherence. Laser sharp. No doubts. Of course, it went on to change pH of water. And here's the summary of the data of Tiller's intention to change water by 1 pH unit up and 1 pH unit down. Now, part 2 has this. I'm not going to go over the graph again. We have so much to talk about. This is the graph for pH water going down. And this is the beauty. Tiller, not only when you do target experiments like this, it's not just your attention on the target and collecting the pH units over time. You want to look at the ambient conditions of the lab itself, okay? And he did that. And he noticed something very peculiar. The air temperatures all over the lab were recording this air temperature recordings throughout the experiments of the targets, and he noticed that they were oscillating. Now, you can't have such rhythmic, absolutely like a seesaw pattern like this ever. And we feel, when I move my arms around, I feel air temperatures and fluctuating air. And the darker thing is the water pH, okay? I realize there's a lot of data here, but I want
you can see the concept, yeah.
Yes, I want you to get the greater pattern here. This is very abnormal.
Right.
And so he asked himself, is it air conditioning? Is it diurnal rhythms, daytime, nighttime? What's going on? And he realized, let's make sure this is an air current. There's Bernard currents. It's a specific type of convection currents described in physics. And if it was air and you put in a fan, it should obliterate this right away. And he did that, and it continued. It was the big clue that this isn't material air molecules doing that. This is the physical vacuum that is described by Dirac. I'm giving you lots of physics here. I apologize. The book goes into it. I'm just going to keep insisting on that.
I just think that Dirac C, it gets into, just really bridges all the metaphysical stuff.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's where unmanifest becomes the manifest. Exactly. Dirac's equation was going into the physical vacuum, all right? Physical vacuum means there's no stuff in there, but it has the field effects. Right. And once you have enough energy, in this case, human intention energy, up pops material stuff. It is the blueprint, but we're jumping the gun. Tiller did some very interesting mathematics, Fourier analysis, and he realized that all of these waveforms are nesting into each other. It's like harmonics. This is like musical notes. The whole room is like music to the ears, except we couldn't hear that, right? If we had the sensory apparatus to really hear what the room was doing, he says it's like the room was pumping, like a beat, like harmonics. It was, when he did that in that meetings, he used to do this, Nisha, the room is different. And I realized when I was in his labs, I felt it. That this isn't a normal physics room with all the disarray in the computers and charts. I felt rested. I felt like it was a cathedral space. And that is saying something. So really, what we live in, and I hope you can see my cursor, is right here, conventional physics.
Yeah.
Okay, conventional physics. And when Tiller's intention is taking effect, you see that the curve goes up to a new physics. This is normal space. The conditioned space is that rhythmic up and down seesaw, and it's enhanced reality. And this is what he's describing, that new physics. Okay, and over time, over a few months, we were really operating in a very new physics, and the materials in that space exhibit totally new behavior, like the water pH. It's not normal anymore because we didn't add chemicals, we didn't electrify the water. It's in this space, right? And it has new hydrogen ions. Where did that energy come from? That's where we're coming to.
Okay.
So this is the thing about it. I hope you can see it, that Tiller made the connection that as the water pH changes, that is your indicator of how much that space is conditioned, how much that space is elevated. And he calls that reciprocal space. This is direct space, ordinary physics, and reciprocal space or R space, okay? And the water pH is our indicator. And that becomes relevant as we go on. So reciprocal space is higher energy. It's a thermodynamic pump, and energy always flows from high to low. Okay, that's the gradient. That's universal law. And intention, Tiller's intention, information brings coherence. It orders that physical vacuum. We saw, here we are. This is very ordered. It's not helter-skelter.
Right.
This is like boom, 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 boom.
Right.
Okay. Let's go back here. So it's very high energy. It's ordered, and it's a source of energy, thermodynamic energy to do useful work. So let's go right into the Buddha's relics now. Okay. This is what I call top-down science. What Buddha's relics teach us about consciousness.
I love that picture.
Yeah, I mean, I this is slightly misleading, Carol. You know why? Because this Buddhist Lama monk has all of these electrodes fixed on his skull, which is really incorrect. It should have been fixed on his heart.
Okay.
It's not mind over matter, it's heart over matter. And I always used to make this point to Tiller, and he says, "You're right on, Nisha." But I use this because it's such a lovely
Exactly.
picture. All right, so consciousness is not in your brain, Carol, but I use it. So this is what happened. In 2009, my world was upside down. It just went haywire, okay? And I write, well, I may be exaggerating a little, because in actuality, my world really turned upside. It was right side up. Everything I held about consciousness, all my answers that it's in here was actually questioned. All my answers were questioned. I had to go back to the board. And it really came to this, Buddha's relics. It was in 2009 that I visited the Gyuta Monastery in Minneapolis, okay? And until then, I always thought consciousness was in the brain. Finding the mind was in the body somewhere, okay? It was in the head.
Right.
And really, we come back to this question, do the following items have a mind? These are the relics. They almost look like little objects, like little pearls inside the dish. This is a high resolution picture of Buddha's relics. Look at this picture. You're being blessed just by gazing at it. Don't think that consciousness needs eyes, ears, nose, and a mouth. You're looking at it.
I mean, what are the Buddha? Oh, where did those come from?
They're coming from Gautam Buddha. These objects are more than 2,600 years old.
Wow.
Okay, they're the original relics of Buddha. And I will explain what happened. Okay. So here I am. I'm going to this Gyuta Monastery. I see the relics. And actually, even before I saw the relics, I entered the doorway. And this is what I felt. Immediately, an intense state of awareness or presence, as though the Buddha himself was present. I published my experiences in the Journal of Alternative and Complementary Medicine. It's a journal, a medical journal, in 2012. All right, so this is from that journal article. The state is nonverbal. Nobody's talking to me. It's vast and profound. It's so exquisite, like a gentleness, and yet like a rock. It was like being in your mother's embrace, okay? Really. There was a silence and a state of peace that seemed limitless. And for me, the sense of time ceased to exist. It was timeless. And my mind naturally, without effort, just went into complete emptiness, complete quiet, no thoughts. It was profound. And as I looked at the relics, I'd made my way to the table. There was an radiation of energy. That's all I can call it. But really the correct word really now is information. Remember, I wrote this in 2012 and I have evolved. It was like this energy, but it was information, coherent love from the relics to my heart. It was private, personal, and conveyed an immense sense of oneness or unity with everyone and everything.
Wow.
I fell to my knees. Okay, I was so moved. It had no counterpart in ordinary experience. All I can say is it's like being hugged by your mother or by your grandmother. Unconditional lovingness. Unconditional. But here's the thing that turned me inside out. Nobody was present. The relics hold consciousness. I'm going to repeat this. The relics are conscious. I'm shouting. I know this because it's so wonderful to revisit this again and again and again.
Right.
Nobody is present. No flesh and blood, no ears and eyes and mouth. And yet these objects are conscious. It's beyond the brain, mind without body.
Right.
It's very important. Very important. So I invited with my brother these relics visit our home. And we were granted permission. It is the only time in the 11-year history of the relic tour that it went to a private residence.
Wow.
I don't know why they said yes. All I know is they said yes. And so the masters, it's not even His Holiness the Dalai Lama. The Buddha himself is present, Carol. I'm saying this emphatically. Right. It is not some office in some place that said yes. And I've often wondered, and I think we were given a chance because what happened later on is magnificent. It is that we were connected to Tiller.
And did you invite people to your home?
Oh, yes, it was advertised. I took out a lot of slides because we will never finish this.
Right.
So we had a poster. It was over 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, that the relic tour came to our home. It is free. We had over 3,500 visitors. We don't know these people.
Right.
Okay. The fire department knew. The Los Angeles Police Department knew, and in fact, they were present in the opening ceremony. I took out all the pictures we will never finish. So the living room was like this, where we read the Wall Street Journal and have coffee. And within a few seconds was like this.
Wow.
This to this. And in fact, my family said, do you feel this? What's happening? The relic case comes into the room. We haven't even unpacked nothing. They come on the head of the custodian, Dekili. Dekili is the custodian, and Gandhi. They both came with the relic case on their crown chakra. They come into the room. There's the door here. They stepped in. Whoa. And I remember being so staggered with the change, instantaneous. Remember, and I will come back to that graph again, okay? So it felt like the Westminster Abbey. And you know what happened to the light bulbs in the kitchen and the toaster?